Okay, let's unpack something that might be closer than you think. In your paint, maybe, car parts, even sunscreen.
Absolutely. We're talking about titanium dioxide.
And the market for it is just huge. They're
Yeah.
projecting what? USD 21,425.5 million in 2025?
That's the number. $21 billion, give or take. It's massive.
So what is this stuff exactly, and why is the market so big?
Well, that's what we're digging into today. We're using the new Titanium Dioxide Market Report 2025, the global edition from Cognitive Market Research.
Ah, okay, so a solid source.
Yeah, it gives us a great roadmap. It looks at the size now, but also projects where things are headed.
And not just next year, right? This goes further out.
Exactly. It forecasts all the way to 2033.
Yeah.
And it gives us that compound annual growth rate, the CAGR.
Right, the CAGR. So it shows the overall trend. What's the time frame they're using?
So 2024 is the base year. They looked back from 2021 to 24 for historical context, estimated 2025,
Okay.
and then forecast from 2025 right through to 2033.
Got it. So our mission here is basically to pull out the key nuggets for you listening, right? Market size, what's driving it, where it's growing fastest, how it's used.
Precisely. Cut through the noise and get straight to the important stuff about this, well, surprisingly big industry.
Okay, so that USD 21.4 billion figure for 2025.
Yeah.
Where does the report see it going after that? What's the growth looking like?
He's showing pretty substantial growth. The forecast hits USD 36,812.99 million by 2033,
Wow, okay.
which works out to a pretty robust tech AGR of 7.00% between 2025 and 2033.
7%. For a market this size, that's significant sustained growth. Suggests real demand.
It really does. That kind of rate points to strong fundamentals, yeah.
So geographically, is everyone growing at 7% or does it vary a lot?
Oh, it varies quite a bit. That's a really important point. Right now, North America actually holds the lion's share.
Really? How much?
Over 40% of the global revenue. For 2025, they're estimated at USD 6,213.40 million.
Okay, dominant. And their growth rate?
It's a bit slower than the global average, projected 6.0% CAGR through 2033.
Still pretty healthy, though. What's keeping demand so high in North America?
Well, the big one is paints and coatings, like we mentioned, but it's also big in plastics, cosmetics, even the food industry uses it.
Mm.
And all that's supported by, construction, the car industry, infrastructure projects, the usual economic drivers.
Right.
What's kind of interesting there, too, is the push towards greener, eco-friendly coatings, and nanotechnology is popping up more.
Nanotech. In coatings, that sounds advanced. How's that playing out?
Well, it can lead to things like better durability, maybe self-cleaning surfaces, better UV protection. It's still developing, but definitely a trend to watch.
Okay. And within North America, the U.S. must be a huge piece of that 40%.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. market alone is projected at nearly $5 billion.
Yeah.
USD 4,982.37 million in 2025. Growth there is about 5.8%, driven a lot by plastic.
And Canada and Mexico.
Yep, both significant. Canada's around USD 745 million in 2025, going a bit faster at 6.8%, partly thanks to cosmetics. Mexico's over $500 million, USD 565 million, with 6.5% growth. Solid contributions.
Okay, so North America leaves the pack for now. What about Europe? You said they're also a big player.
They are indeed. Europe accounts for just over 30% of the global market.
30%, okay.
Their 2025 estimate is about USD 5,142.12 million, with growth projected at 5.8% CAGR, so slightly slower than North America.
And the drivers, similar story. Paints, coatings.
Very similar. Paints and coatings are key, tied to construction and automotive again, but Europe has a slightly different angle with stricter environmental rules.
Ah, regulations playing a bigger role.
Yeah, definitely pushing towards more sustainable options. You see demand in cosmetics, too, for UV protection, plus plastics, paper, food. It's widely used.
And that regulatory pressure, is it changing how they make it?
It is. There's a noticeable shift towards chloride-based production methods, which are generally seen as a bit more eco-friendly. That's a definite trend in Europe.
Interesting. Any specific European countries that stand out in the report?
Quite a few, actually. The UK market is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
USD 863 million or so in 2025, growing at 6.6%. Automotive and aerospace are big there.
Okay.
Germany's even bigger, over $1 billion. USD 1,018 million, growing at 6.0%, mostly construction-driven.
Right.
Then you've got France, Italy, Russia, all sizable markets. Even smaller countries like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg show decent growth, often in niche applications.
And the rest of Europe combined.
Still adds up to a big chunk, yeah.
Yeah.
About USD 720 million, growing a bit slower at 4.5%.
Okay. So North America and Europe are the current heavyweights, but I feel like Asia Pacific, APAC, is often where the really high growth happens these days. Is that true here?
You absolutely nailed it. APAC holds around 23% share right now.
Okay, so third place currently.
Yeah, with a 2025 market size estimated at USD 7,927.44 million.
Right.
But here's the kicker. Their growth rate is the highest globally.
How high we talking?
A really strong 8.4% CAGR projected from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, okay. 8.4%. That's significantly faster. What's firing up that engine in APAC?
It's a combination of things. You've got massive urbanization, huge infrastructure projects, especially in China and India.
Right, that makes sense.
Plus expanding automotive sectors, more consumer goods being made and bought, strong industrial activity overall.
Government's investing too.
Exactly. Lots of government investment in manufacturing. And like elsewhere, demand's growing in cosmetics and pharma.
So it's broad-based growth?
Very broad. And they're also advancing their own production tech. And environmental regs are starting to shape things there too, though maybe not as strongly as in Europe yet. It's a really dynamic picture.
Sounds like it. Any specific countries really driving that 8.4% average?
Well, China is the giant, no surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Over USD 3.3 billion market in 2025, growing at 7.9%. Automotive and aerospace are big drivers there.
Okay.
Japan and South Korea are also major players, mature markets, but still growing decently.
But who's got the highest growth rate?
That would be India. Projected CAGR of 10.3%.
10%.
Yeah, their 2025 market is around USD 793 million, but that growth rate reflects just how fast things are developing there.
Incredible.
Australia is doing well too, Singapore, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia as a whole is a really fast-growing block within APAC.
So it really looks like APAC is poised to potentially take over the top spot down the line, doesn't it?
The trajectory certainly suggests that, yeah.
What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa? Smaller shares, I assume, but still growing.
Exactly. They're smaller pieces of the global pie right now, but definitely showing growth. South America has just over 5% share.
Yep.
Market size around USD 814 million in 2025, and a pretty healthy CAGR of 7.7%.
Almost matching APAC's growth. What's driving it there?
Again, paints and coatings for construction and infrastructure are big. The car industry is expanding, more demand for cosmetics, packaging. Brazil and Argentina lead the way there, both showing strong growth.
Okay. And the Middle East?
They're about 2% of the global share. Market size around USD 857 million in 2025 with a 7.3% CAGR.
Still strong growth.
Yeah.
What's the focus there?
Construction, automotive, plastics. Fueled by urbanization, big infrastructure spending, especially UAE, Saudi Arabia. Cosmetics are growing too.
Makes sense. And finally, Africa. Smallest share, right?
Yeah, currently around 1% of global revenue,
Hmm.
about USD 471 million in 2025. The growth is a bit slower, 5.1% CAGR.
Okay.
Drivers, similar themes. Construction, automotive, packaging driven by urbanization. Also rising demand for personal care products. Nigeria and South Africa are the key markets mentioned.
All right. That gives us a really good global map of where things stand and where they're heading. Now, you mentioned earlier there are different grades. Rutile and anatase. What's the deal with those?
Right, that's a key way the market is segmented. Rutile and anatase are the two main crystal forms of titanium dioxide.
And rutile is the main one.
Yes, rutile dominates the market, and the report expects it to stay that way. It just has better optical properties overall.
Like what specifically?
Higher refractive index, basically. It bends light more effectively, which means better opacity, better brightness. Think really white paints. It's also got great UV resistance, very durable.
So that's why it's the go-to for...
Paints, coatings, plastics, cosmetics. The big volume applications rely heavily on rutile. It's even finding uses in things like self-cleaning surfaces and solar panels because it's so stable.
Okay, rutile is the workhorse. But the report said anatase is the fastest growing. Why is that if rutile is dominant?
Because anatase has its own unique strength. It's particularly good at something called photocatalysis.
Photocatalysis, what's that?
It means it can use light energy, like sunlight, to trigger chemical reactions on its surface. So think self-cleaning windows that break down dirt when the sun hits them.
Whoa, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's also got higher chemical reactivity and absorbs UV light well at certain wavelengths, making it useful in specific cosmetic types. Some solar cells, antimicrobial coatings, even environmental cleanup tech.
Some more specialized, maybe higher tech applications driving its growth.
Exactly. It's carving out important niches, and those niches are growing fast.
Fascinating stuff. So grades are one way to cut the market. What about by application? Where does most of this stuff actually end up?
The biggest slice by far, according to the report, is paints and coatings.
Makes sense.
Yeah, its ability to provide that bright white opacity plus UV resistance. Just essential for architectural paints, car paints, industrial coatings, makes them last longer, look better.
Hard to imagine modern paint without it, really. What's the next biggest use?
Plastics are a huge and rapidly growing area. Think about packaging, car bumpers, household appliances.
Right, the lots of white plastic around.
Exactly. It makes plastic white or opaque, but crucially, it also adds UV resistance, stopping the plastic from getting brittle or discolored in the sun.
Yeah.
Improves durability.
Okay. Paints and plastics are the big two. What else?
Paper manufacturing is another key application. Helps make paper bright and opaque so ink doesn't show through. And then there's a catch-all others category.
Right.
That includes things like making artificial fibers, using it as a pigment in inks, stuff like that.
So, super versatile. We've touched on drivers in different regions, but looking globally, what are the main things pushing this whole market forward?
The report points to a few big ones. First, like we said, the growing use in cosmetics and personal care, specifically for that UV protection. Sunscreens, lotions, makeup.
All right, that seems to be booming.
Second, just the continued expansion in plastics, paper, packaging. These are huge global industries needing brightness and durability.
Okay.
And third, technology. Better production methods are making it more efficient, maybe greener, which helps keep it competitive and opens up new possibilities.
Makes sense. What about the flip side? Any major roadblocks or challenges holding things back?
Definitely. Environmental regulations are a big one. Producing titanium dioxide can have environmental impacts, and there are health concerns being studied, so regulations are getting tighter.
So compliance costs and maybe public perception issues.
Could be, yeah. And like any major commodity, it's vulnerable to fluctuating raw material prices. Supply chain hiccups can also cause problems and affect costs.
Okay. And looking ahead, any big trends shaping the future besides those regulations?
Well, tied to the regulations is a clear trend. Growing demand for sustainable, eco-friendly alternatives or greener production methods. Consumers and industries are pushing for it.
The sustainability angle again.
Exactly. And the other big trend is that nanotechnology we mentioned earlier, using nano-sized TiO2 particles to really fine-tune performance in coatings, plastics, cosmetics. That's gaining traction.
Nanotechnology seems to be popping up everywhere. So this sounds like a busy market. What's the competitive scene like? Lots of companies jostling.
Oh, absolutely. It's described as highly competitive. The big players are focused on innovation, developing new grades, finding new applications.
And expanding production.
Yeah, expanding capacity to meet that growing demand we talked about. And crucially, investing in sustainable production. That shift to the chloride process, developing nano-TiO2. That's where a lot of the competition is happening.
Any example?
The report mentions BASF getting an ISCC PLUS certification for sustainable plastic additives as one example that's sustainability focused. Companies want to show they're becoming greener.
Right. That certification probably helps market their products. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've looked at a really big global market for titanium dioxide.
Huge and growing steadily.
Yeah, solid growth projected out to 2033. We saw North America leads now, but APAC is growing fastest.
Definitely the region to watch.
We learned about the main grades, Rutal the workhorse, Anatase the fast-growing specialists.
With different properties leading to different uses.
And those uses are broad paints, plastics being massive, but also paper, cosmetics, and more niche things.
Driven by demand for brightness, durability, UV protection.
But also facing challenges from regulations and needing to adapt with things like sustainability and nanotechnology.
Exactly. It's a complex picture influenced by everything from construction booms to sunscreen trends to environmental policy.
So here's a final thought maybe. We see this big push for sustainability globally, and we see APAC growing like wildfire.
Two powerful forces.
Right. So you have to wonder, how might truly green, maybe next generation titanium dioxide alternative, perhaps developed in that dynamic APAC region, how might they change these projections we've been talking about? Could they disrupt things?
That's a really interesting question to ponder, isn't it? How innovation driven by sustainability could reshape this entire landscape. Definitely food for thought.
For sure. Well, hopefully this deep dive gave you a good handle on the titanium dioxide market today and where it seems to be heading. If a specific area caught your ear, a region, an application, there's definitely more to explore.